Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss the new chapter, that is states of matter. So far we learned in the last two chapters the important properties related to the ultimate particle of a matter, that is atom or molecules. So now here you know very well about the matter. So what is matter? Matter means anything that has mass and occupies some space, that is called as matter. This matter exists in three physical states. You know very well the three physical states, namely solid, liquid and gaseous state. These are the three physical states of a matter. What do you mean by the solid? Which has a definite size or a definite volume and a definite shape. So generally the solids are said to be hard and rigid. By applying the strong force only, the shape of this solid matter might be changed. When it comes to the liquid, it possesses a definite volume but not definite shape. When it comes to the gas, it does not possess definite volume or definite shape. These are called gases. When we see the character of this liquid, it has a tendency to flow. This character exists in liquid state of a matter. Whether a matter can exist in solid state or liquid state or gaseous state, so that is decided by the conditions of temperature and pressure are decided whether a matter can exist in solid state or liquid state or gaseous state. Sometimes simultaneously all the three physical states also might be exist. All the three states exist. So that is generally we called as triple point at a particular temperature and pressure. For example, you know very well the water molecule is there. So the water substance, it may exist in solid in the form of ice, in liquid state, and in the form of water vapor, that is exist in gaseous state. The water is exist in solid state or liquid state or gaseous state, that is decided by the temperature and pressure. Suppose if the water is a matter to exist in solid state, definitely its melting point above the room temperature, then only that is exist in solid state. Suppose if it is a matter of liquid is exist in liquid state, the boiling point must be above the room temperature. Above the room temperature. Suppose if it is exist in the gaseous state, so the boiling point of that water below the room temperature, then immediately it is converted into the vapor form. So like that at atmospheric pressure in all the cases. So the temperature and pressure here decided whether water can exist in ice or in liquid form or in vapor form. So that's why the matter may exist in any one of the physical state, that is decided by the temperature and pressure. But at a certain conditions of temperature and pressure, simultaneously all the three physical state also will be exist. The ice is exist, water is exist, and water vapor is also exist at a certain temperature and pressure. So that point generally we are called as a triple point. That is, you might be studied in your higher classes. Okay, so like this, so the matter might be exist here, the solid or liquid are decided by the temperature and pressure. So to understand the behavior of the three states of a matter, the scientists were trying to understand the constituent of this matter, okay, in different physical states. In this chapter, mainly we can learn so the important general characteristics of the constituent particles of a matter. So that is our main aim. And moreover, in your syllabus, so among the three physical states, the most of that chapter, the 70 to 80% is okay, related to the gaseous state. At the end of the chapter, it is okay, talking about the liquid state. Might be in your next semester, so they can explain about the solid state. So before going to discuss the first topic, which is help us to understand the behavior of the three states of a matter, especially the gaseous state of a matter, we need to know about so what kind of the forces are present between the constituent particles of a matter, which is either exist in solid or liquid or gas. So the first topic in this states of matter is interparticle forces. So this is one of the important topic to understand. So what is happened at the microscopic level? So here the interparticle forces. Particles are the constituent of matters. The particles may be atoms or may be molecules. That's why this topic is in some of the textbook that might be mentioned intermolecular forces are also. So what do you mean by the interparticle forces? The forces which are present between the interacting particles. So that forces are called interparticle forces. So these interparticle forces, it may be attractive forces or maybe repulsive forces. So these interparticle forces are present between any two particles, even in case of non-polar molecules also these interparticle forces are present. How do you say these interparticle forces, even they are present in the non-polar molecules? Generally, we know certain gases like hydrogen, chlorine, or helium, or neon. So these are the gases are also exist in liquid state. But familiarly we know hydrogen is a gas, chlorine is a gas, helium is a gas, neon is a gas. So these gases are converted into the liquid state. That means, what is the difference between gas and liquid? In gas, the particles are away from each other. In liquid, the particles are come very close to each other. When a gas is converted into the liquid, when a gas is liquefies, it clearly indicates, so the particles are come very close to each other. When the particles are come very close to each other, whenever there are certain attractive forces are present, then only they are come close together and they are converted into the liquid state. So this hydrogen or chlorine or helium or neon or the non-polar molecules which are liquefied is clearly indicates between the molecules or atoms of gases to convert into liquefy, there should be some forces operating that makes the particles close together. As a result, the gases are liquefied. But however, these forces, interparticle forces, are very weak forces. It is just not like the ionic bond is present between the two oppositely charged ions. Compared to the covalent bond or ionic bond, so here the forces present between the particles is very, very weak. These forces were first studied by a scientist whose name is van der Waals. He was a scientist studied about these forces, how they are affecting the behavior of real gases. So that's why on his name, these interparticle forces are also called as van der Waals forces. On his honor, So these forces are named as van der Waals forces. So these van der Waals forces, so present between the particles are of four types are there. One is dispersion forces, and the second one is dipole-dipole forces, third one is dipole instantaneous dipole forces, and the fourth one is hydrogen bonding. These are the four types of the interparticle forces are operating between the atoms or molecules or simply between the particles. So let us discuss one by one. First we will discuss the dispersion, after that dipole-dipole, followed by dipole instantaneous dipole forces, because we can discuss this hydrogen bonding very clearly in the last chapter. The first one is dispersion forces. So these type of the forces are operated between the atoms or non-polar molecules. Non-polar molecules. So to understand these forces are operating between the non-polar molecules or atoms like noble gases. So let us take the two noble gas atoms, say A and B. A and B. So both the atoms are uncharged. Uncharged means in both the cases the symmetrical distribution of electron cloud is present. Symmetrical distribution of electron charge cloud is present. So here, to know about the dispersion forces, so around the atom the electrons are revolving. So for a fraction of time the distribution of electron charge cloud around an atom A is become unsymmetrical. Let us consider a fraction of time the distribution of electron charge cloud is unsymmetrical. Because of that unsymmetrical distribution of electron charge cloud in atom A, so the electron charge cloud is more one side than the other. So that is, we can represent pictorially like this. So now your atom A, this is A atom. In that one, the unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud is there. This unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud makes the some dipole on the atom A. It will be developed some dipole, that is positive charge and a negative charge is developed on that atom at both the ends. So that will be called as a temporary dipole. This temporary dipole is called instantaneous dipole. Instantaneous dipole is developed because of unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud. So unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud means, what is that here? The electron charge cloud is more one side than the other. Distribution of electron cloud. As a result, the positive and negative charge centers, okay, do not coincide because the electron charge cloud one side is more, the other side is less. So that will be resulted, whichever the side is more, that side the slightly negative charge, and other side obviously the slightly positive charge is developed. This is called a temporary dipole. The temporary dipole is named as instantaneous dipole. Because of the generation of the instantaneous dipole on atom A, this atom A is distorted the electron cloud of B atom. As a result, here also the induced dipole is developed on the atom B. Because of A, the B is also will be distorted or distributed. So once it is disturbed, so here also the dipole is developed. This dipole is called as instantaneous induced dipole. This is called, this is atom B and instantaneous induced dipole. Instantaneous induced dipole. Because here the dipole is induced because of this instantaneous dipole, so that is called instantaneous induced dipole. Now after developing the temporary dipoles on both A and B, so these two are attracted each other. So because of here the slightly negative charge on atom A is attracting the slightly positive charge on atom B. So as a result, these are come very close to each other. So they are attracted. That attracted forces are called, so here, instantaneous dipole, instantaneous dipole, instantaneous induced dipole forces, induced dipole forces. This is first observed by a German physicist. So his name is London. That's why these are also called as London forces or dispersion forces. Dispersion forces. So like that, so the dispersion forces are developed between the two atoms. So here the strength of these London forces or dispersion forces depends upon the polarizability of an atom. So if the atom is more polarizable means more unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud. Okay, the nucleus and the electrons are displaced from their average positions in a greater extent. That is leads to the greater unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud. So that will be results into the greater dipole is developed. So that causes the strong attraction between the two atoms. That's why the strength of the dispersion forces between the two atoms depends upon the polarizability of an atom. And not only the polarizability of an atom, it is also depends upon the whether it is more polarized or less polarized. How do you say? That is depends upon the size of the atom, and number of electrons present in the atom, and molecular structure. So these three are decided whether that atom is said to be more polarized or less polarized. If the size of the atom is large or the number of electrons present in the atom is more in number, so there is a greater distortion of the electron cloud. So that will be resulted into the greater dipole that causes the strong dispersion forces present between the two atoms. That's why whether these dispersion forces are strong or weak, that is depends upon the polarizability of an atom. That polarizability of an atom depends upon the size of the atom or the number of electrons present in the atom or the molecular structure. Those three factors can be decided. So whether the dispersion forces are strong or weak between the two atoms. So here this type of the forces are called as here dispersion force. And the one more important, so these are always strong. The dispersion forces are always strong only until the distance 500 picometers. Generally, the interaction energy in these atoms, is inversely proportional to the r to the power of 1 by r to the power of 6. Here, as the distance between the two atoms is very, very less, the interaction energy is more, the dispersion forces are very strong. As the distance between the two atoms increases, so the interaction energy is less, the dispersion forces are become weak. So this is about the dispersion forces. So the second one is dipole-dipole forces. The dipole-dipole forces are always operated between the polar molecules, between polar molecules which are having the permanent dipole moment. So for example, let us take the two polar molecules H and Cl, H and Cl. So in the HCl molecules, the chlorine atom is said to be more electronegative. That's why the electron displacement takes place toward the chlorine atom. As a result, it gets a slightly negative charge, here slightly positive charge. So the development of the two partially positive and negative charges at the both ends of the molecule is called dipole. So it is a dipole. So similarly, here also the partially positive and negative charges are developed at both the ends of this molecule. Here also the dipole is developed. This partially negative charge of one molecule can attract the partially positive charge of another molecule. As a result, these two atoms are come very close to each other. So here the dipole, and it is a dipole, because of the development of the dipole, on both the molecules, the negative charge is attracting the positive charge of another molecule. That causes the molecules come very close to each other. That attraction is called as here dipole-dipole forces. These dipole-dipole forces was first observed by the scientist Keesom. That's why these forces are also called as Keesom forces. And compared to the dispersion forces or London forces, the London forces are always weaker than the dipole-dipole forces. And in whichever the molecule, the dipole-dipole forces are present. So in that molecule, the London forces are also exist. So in addition to the dipole-dipole forces, if the London forces are also present, as a result, the cumulative effect of that one, the interaction energy between the two molecules is increases, the attractive forces between the two molecules is increases. That means, so the presence of the London forces in addition to the dipole-dipole forces in polar molecules, they are strongly attracted together. Here, the interaction energy is directly proportional to 1 by r to the power of 3 in some of the molecules which are exist in solid state. So which are having the rotating molecule, in those cases it is directly proportional to 1 by r to the power of 6. So here also, as the molecules come very close to each other which are having the permanent dipole, the interaction energy is increases. That is clearly indicates the molecules are strongly attracted to each other. So this type of the forces are called as here dipole-dipole forces. Simply, so these forces are operating between the molecules which are having the permanent dipole moment. They are called polar molecules. So once the dipole is developed on the two molecules, the partially negative charge of the one molecule can attract the partially positive charge of another molecule, which causes the two molecules come very close to each other. So that force is called as here dipole-dipole forces. So this was first observed by a scientist, that is Keesom. That's why it is also called as Keesom forces. Earlier we discussed the London forces. Compared to the London forces, the dipole-dipole forces are always said to be very strong. In whichever the molecules, so the dipole-dipole forces are exist. In addition to the dipole-dipole, the London forces are also exist. Because of the presence of the both the London and dipole-dipole forces, the attractive forces between the polar molecules is increases. In this case, the interaction energy is directly proportional to 1 by r to the power of 3 or 1 by r to the power of 6 in the case of the rotating polar molecules. So here the third one is induced dipole forces. So these are the forces are operating between the molecules which are having the permanent dipole moment, that is polar molecule and non-polar molecule. So when we observe the non-polar molecules, the dipole is not appears. But whenever, so here this is, let us take the polar molecule, and here the dipole is already present because these are possessing the permanent dipole moment. The non-polar molecule, so in this one, the dipole is not appears. But whenever this non-polar molecule approaches the polar molecule, this polar molecule induces the dipole on the non-polar molecule. How this polar molecule can induces the dipole on the non-polar molecule is because of this electric field of the polar molecule. So this electric field of the polar molecule can distort the electron charge cloud present in the non-polar molecule. Because of that distortion, the unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud is present. This unsymmetrical distribution of electron cloud causes so the more amount of the negative charge one side than the other, that will be resulted into the dipole. So now here this say atom A and this is atom B. This molecule, A molecule is as it is there, and here it is having the permanent dipole. But whenever this molecule, B molecule approaches the A molecule, it is distorted its electron cloud. So that causes the dipole on the non-polar molecule, that is called induced dipole. Now it is already dipole. Because of this dipole moment, it is induced. As a result, this is called induced dipole. Now these two are attracted together because the negative charge end of this molecule is attracting the positive charge end of another molecule. That causes the attraction. That attraction is called as a dipole induced dipole forces. These are called dipole induced dipole forces. Induced dipole forces. So now here this dipole induced dipole forces are dipole induced dipole forces are weaker than dipole dipole forces. Dipole dipole forces. But the same dipole induced dipole forces always greater than the London forces. This is another point. So wherever this dipole and induced dipole forces are present, in addition to that, these London forces are also will be present in that in between that molecules, London forces. Because of the London forces, in addition to the dipole induced dipole forces, so the polar and non-polar molecules are strongly attracted to each other. Here also the interaction energy is inversely proportional to the R to the power of 6. Here also, as the distance between the polar and non-polar molecules decreases, the interaction energy is increases. That means those molecules are strongly attracted together. So these three forces are collecting together. This is one is London forces, and the second one is dipole dipole forces, and the third one is dipole and induced dipole forces are together generally called as van der Waals forces. Van der Waals forces. So the fourth one is hydrogen bonding is there. That hydrogen bonding is also one type of dipole dipole interaction, but there is a strong dipole dipole interaction is present. So that never comes under this van der Waals forces. Mostly this London forces, dipole induced dipole forces, dipole dipole forces are generally together we called as van der Waals forces. So the fourth interparticle forces are hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding is the attractive force which bind the hydrogen atom of one molecule and electronegative atom of another molecule. That is called hydrogen bonding. For example, you know very well, I clearly discussed in the last chapter. So let us take the HF and HF molecule. Here fluorine is more electronegative than hydrogen. That's why the partially negative charge is developed on the fluorine, and on hydrogen is partially positive charge. So in both the cases, the polarity is developed, the dipole is developed on the molecule. So now the negative charge end of this fluorine atom is attracting the positive charge present on the hydrogen atom of another molecule. This is simply we called as hydrogen bonding. So whether all molecules are forming the hydrogen bonding? No. So here I would like to say once again, I will recollect the two important points. So the molecule must have the most electronegative atom. Electronegative atom, they are either fluorine or oxygen or nitrogen. And the second point is the most electronegative atom must be attached to the hydrogen. So whichever the molecule can satisfy these two conditions, that can only form the hydrogen bonding. This hydrogen bonding is somewhat strong as compared to this van der Waals forces. So van der Waals forces. Van der Waals forces are that London forces or dipole forces or induced dipole forces. When we are compared to those three forces, this hydrogen bonding is always said to be very stronger. It has a greater influence on the physical properties. So wherever the hydrogen bonding is there also commonly the van der Waals forces are present. But however, this hydrogen bonding makes the molecules very close together even without the including the van der Waals forces. So these are some few important points because we are clearly discussed in the last chapter. I don't want to go what is the cause of hydrogen bonding and what are the types of hydrogen bonding. Here only I would like to say the point is hydrogen bonding is nothing but the attractive force which binds the hydrogen atom of one molecule and electronegative atom of another molecule. These kind of forces are never operating between all the molecules. Only the molecules which are having the most electronegative atom, that is either fluorine or oxygen or nitrogen, and that molecule that most electronegative atom must be attached to the hydrogen atom. Those molecules only can form the hydrogen bonding, and that when compared with all the interparticle forces, these hydrogen bonding forces are said to be very strong. So far we discussed all these forces, the interparticle forces. These interparticle forces are always said to be attractive forces. Does only the attractive forces are present between the particles? No. Along with the attractive forces, the repulsive forces are also will be present. So generally when we see that the three physical states of a matter, so in the gaseous state, the molecules are always try to away from each other. When it comes to the liquid state, the molecules or the particles are come very close to each other. And in solids, the particles are still very close to each other. But when we are observing the solid and liquid, if you try to compress any solid or liquid, they never undergo compression easily like gases. So they never easily undergo compression like gases, means that there should be some force which is opposing that phenomena. So that force is called as repulsive forces. When we want to try to compress the solid or liquid, so the repulsive forces are dominating the attractive forces. That's why, so they never undergo compression. So that is clearly indicates in between the particles, not only the attractive forces are present, even the repulsive forces are also will be present. So let us say the one more important the term we are commonly used in this chapter, that is thermal energy. So what is thermal energy? The energy of a body which is obtained due to the motion or movement of a particles of a matter. So that is called as a thermal energy. This thermal energy is always directly proportional to the absolute temperature. As the temperature is increases, the thermal energy is also increases. So this thermal energy is obtained is because of which one? The motion of a particle. That motion we called as here thermal motion or thermal movement. So when the thermal motion is more or the thermal energy of the particle is more, is clearly indicates that the molecules always try to away from each other. So that means whenever that matter, the constituent particles, if the thermal energy is very high, always the particles are try to away from each other. So far whatever we discussed, that attractive forces, the four van der Waals forces or dipole-dipole forces, or dipole-induced dipole forces, or hydrogen bonding, always they try to keep the particles are very close to each other. But whereas this thermal energy always try to keep the particles away from each other. So, to understand whether a matter can exist in solid state or liquid state or gaseous state, so among these two, that attractive and the thermal forces, the intermolecular forces and this thermal energy, so whichever it is dominating, so that can be decided, so whether the matter can be exist in solid state or liquid state or gaseous state. Suppose if the attractive forces are dominating the continuously the thermal energy, then always, so the attractive forces are dominating the thermal energy means the particles are come close to each other. So when the particles are come very close to each other means the gas is converted into liquid, the liquid is converted into which one? Solid. So that's why as the gas is converted into the liquid and liquid is converted into the solids. So this is can be obtained whenever, so the predomination of the intermolecular forces. If intermolecular forces predominates the thermal energy or simply the repulsive forces. Suppose if the opposite one, that is thermal energy is a predominate the intermolecular forces, so that is possible in which one gas is greater than, is a liquid is greater than solid. In gas, the thermal energy is predominated. Why? Because so the molecules are always away from each other in gas as compared to liquid and then which one? Solid.